The worst tragedy on American soil. The 9/11 incident was an attack not only on the American people, but the American dream. With the destruction of the Twin Towers, America and the world as we knew it was plunged into a sea of fear and chaos. However, before the towers' destruction, there were another duo of towers just as imposing and dominating. Across the country in Texas was a duo taking the NBA by storm. The 1995 MVP David Robinson and the future face of the Spurs Tim Duncan were towering above their competition. Naturally, you can see where the premise of this video comes from. Could the NBA's Twin Towers prevent the destruction of the real-life Twin Towers? A little background on both of our protagonists, with David Robinson first. One of my all-time favorite players who had an illustrious NBA career with 1 MVP, a DPOY, 2-time NBA champion, and 2-time gold medalist. Robinson also served as a U.S. Navy officer from the time of 1983 to 1987 as a civil engineer. Tim Duncan was a young man raised out of the U.S. Virgin Islands who wanted to be a competitive swimmer but switched to basketball after a hurricane destroyed the island's only pool. He is widely regarded as one of, if not the greatest power forwards of all time, accumulating 2 MVPs, 3 Finals MVPs, and 5 NBA championships. But with all this at his disposal, could these two really prevent this national tragedy? The scene is September 11th, early in the morning. David Robinson and Tim Duncan replaced 2 of the random passengers of Flight 11. It's roughly 7:29 a.m., and the passengers are loading onto the plane. With Robinson's background, the Admiral sensed something was off, but Tim Duncan's stoic demeanor told him to relax a little. Once on board, the duo took their seat up front in first class and awaited their takeoff. While young Tim Duncan was looking out the window, Robinson noticed the guy shifting his way towards the cockpit. He taps Duncan, getting his attention and alerts him of possible threat. Most people would be rather intimidated by this, but Tim's nature allowed him to stay calm under pressure. Before the perpetrator could attempt anything, he is grabbed by the 7'1" Goliath of David Robinson, in which he begins to interrogate the guy. One of the perpetrator's partners notices Robinson questioning his ally and attempts to sneak up on him with a firearm when Tim Duncan palms the guy's skull and throws him across the cabin. The terrorists, realizing they've been caught, start attempting to take hostages and try to rush the duo to get to the cabin. Tim and David are standing there between the 3 remaining terrorists in the cockpit. With quick thinking, the young Spur kicks the firearm from the perpetrator towards David Robinson, allowing him to gain control of the situation. The perpetrator attempts to reason with the Admiral, but all that allows him to do is shoot the weapon straight out of the terrorist's hands. The Admiral commands the cabin to rush the perpetrators while the chaos erupts. In the sea of chaos, Tim Duncan grabs the other weapon, shot out of the terrorist's hands, and waits for his opening. The Admiral, while still holding one of the terrorists in his big arms, yells to the cockpit of the commotion going on in the cabin. With this info, the crew attempt an emergency landing. Knowing the terrorist attack had failed, the last remaining terrorist attempts to take one of the flight attendants hostage and threatens Tim Duncan. Any normal person would have been frozen with fear at such a decision, but not the 5-time NBA champ. The young man raises the previously taken gun and puts one right between the terrorist's eyes while the other passenger jumps the remaining perpetrators. The plane safely lands at an open field in Massachusetts, and the Admiral and Tim Duncan aid in the unloading of all the passengers. Strangely enough, with the early warning from the Twin Towers' successful stop of the attack, another 3 planes were stopped from hitting their targets. Flight 93 was successfully taken down by the passengers and crew before hitting Washington, D.C. However, the other 2 flights were stopped by other means. In Flight 175, a bald Frenchman managed to single-handedly stop each terrorist and safely land the plane. On Flight 77, an Argentinian man and a quiet kid from Los Angeles teamed up to defend the passengers from the perpetrators and retook the cabin, safely landing the plane. In the end, all of them were hailed as heroes and would strangely enough meet in the future. But that's for a different time.
Into my life, you are so sweet, no one can compete, and you get into